And Kendall said he would be joining by Zoom, but he might be a few minutes late on Zoom. So we'll just take a minute and see if anybody's connecting.
Oh, Josh is on.
Okay. Hey, Josh.
Hey,
how's it going?
Good. We had the volume turned up, so now we're awake when you said
Volume.
hello.
So loud. All right, I'll do this. All right, then we get your little thing in the corner. Perfect.
Okay. So everybody knows everybody. I can see that they do. So we will just go ahead and get started. And we will probably have a few late Zoomers coming on, so Ella can interrupt us when she sees them and let us know they're there. So I assume everybody remembered to sign in, so we have our attendance sheet. And I also assume that you all looked at the meeting minutes that were sent with the notice of the meeting. So did anybody have any questions or suggestions for changes in those minutes, or are we ready to say they're just good to go? Okay, no problem. So we will enter those minutes as printed. Ella, would you like to start with a funding team report?
Yeah, so the financial report, if everything was business as usual, we'd have $4,283. However, with the federal funding freeze, that came down from the new administration, there is a pause on all federal grants, which is what funds my position. So I have basically a reimbursable grant. So I charge my time and also Fire in the Roots expenses to a reimbursable federal grant that is now frozen. So effectively, Fire in the Root has no money. So our financial report is zero at the moment. This might reverse, it might not. It's kind of indefinitely frozen. We don't have any timeline or any information on where this might go. So it could be tomorrow, could be in 2 months, could be never. We don't know, so we're gonna operate under that assumption. For myself, this freeze also means that I will stop working under a federal grant, and therefore my scope of work can't be federal anymore, which essentially is what I do for Fire in the Root. So in order to stop operating under a federal budget, I have to change my work duties, which means as of right now, I'm on a work freeze, or like a work hold, and I can't work with Fire in the Root through my DNRC capacity. This is subject to change. Just depends on what the higher up at the DNRC decide is a federal scope or a state scope of work. So it's very up in the air, not super sure what it's all gonna shake out to. But for now, I'm gonna have to step back a little bit from Fire in the Root in order to show like good faith that we are not operating on this federal scope due to the freeze. So it's a little weird. I'm gonna transfer a bunch of stuff to you guys, just in case this work hold is more firmly in place and there's more of a hard work halt and I'm not able to work with Fire in the Root. So situation's ongoing, it's evolving. I'll keep you all updated, but that's kind of where we're at right now. So it's going to be evolving over the next week. We have 9 days essentially to cease all federal scope work. So February 21st is when it'll all actually hit the fan. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to change a little bit of how we budget and fund some of our outreach if this doesn't reverse. Anyone got any questions?
A lot. I understand the 4283 we have in there now was previously granted funds, so we could expend those or not?
So unfortunately, all the money that we have as a council is essentially my operating budget that I have from this WUI grant. That's a reimbursable grant to the feds. So I essentially gifted it to Firing the Root in name, but it's still coming out of my operating budget, which is frozen. So that
So
money
our
is not
budget is
usable.
zero.
So we're broke.
So we're broke and we are not allowed to charge anything to it at all right now. So
Assuming this becomes more protracted, do we have other funding sources?
not currently. There's. It's something that we're gonna have to think about. Yeah, so.
And Josh is on the line and
Oh, and Laura has also joined the,
Laura, did you hear most of what Ella just said?
Yeah, I've heard everything since the minutes for the last meeting were approved.
perfect.
I guess my one question for Ella is where does this leave schools the classroom things? Like, I have a date with you on the 20th or something. Is that also on hold?
Yeah, so I thought I emailed you, but maybe I didn't. I had a fairly hectic day. So I've emailed the teachers and said that it's all temporarily suspended, so I'll reach out if we're able to reschedule. So it's just Hamilton Middle School and Corvallis Middle School that we haven't reached yet. So if you folks independently want to go to the schools, we can reschedule that, but I right now can't be a part of it as my job duties have changed.
Understand.
The one I'm helping with, I don't want to reschedule in your absence,
Okay.
but if we can reschedule it when you're back, that's
Mhm.
great.
Right. It makes sense to me that we just all take a pause, take a break, and not try to do too much on our own with no money and no support from Ella, who always gives us good advice. So yeah, my recommendation would be let's not do the school things
Mhm.
until we know what's really happening.
I think moving forward with the workshop makes sense as we've got partners who are willing to help out with some financial aspects of it. And then also
Perhaps they can.
perhaps, maybe.
Talking about the
And
Friday.
No, we're not talking about the Friday. We're talking about the workshop, our spring workshop with Dr. Peter Cole
Oh.
that got moved to April because in March, we were having it at Victor Fire Hall and they can't accommodate people because they've got snow banks everywhere. And they don't expect it to melt before April, if even then.
yeah,
So we're talking about the spring workshop.
April.
April 5th.
Oh, right.
So,
Okay, just to be sure, then that means that there's nothing happening on that Saturday in March and I can book something else if I need to.
book away.
You can get another date, Laura.
No, I just told someone today in my available dates that Saturday wasn't, but now it is. So, okay, no, that's fine.
And maybe this is a good place to talk about why there are no Forest Service people here tonight.
Yes, in a similar vein, the Forest Service now has a directive to basically, they are no longer allowed to do any public facing events, so they can't speak, run booths, they're not running Smoky, and they also can't come to Fire and Root events because they're waiting for new quote unquote marching orders from kind of the new leads of the Forest Service. So they're developing kind of a new communication plan and deciding what that message is gonna be. So before they actually make that message, they're not going to be public facing. So they will not be at the meetings until that is settled.
Yeah.
So, some new changes coming.
Those are some big changes.
Yep.
But as I was saying before the meeting started, there were a few of us talking, and back when Bill Clinton was president, he kind of did the same thing. He just disrupted everything and said, we're gonna get rid of all these bureaucrats and change everything. And a lot of funding got halted for a period of time, and eventually it sorts out. The problem is
It's unhelpful.
we don't know how soon. That's the problem.
Yeah,
But Ella has been asked to write down everything that she does. And I am thinking that as co-chair of Fire in the Root, I would like to write a letter to whoever at the DNRC, Governor Gianforte, Steve Daines, and maybe whenever they get a secretary that they all report to, write to that person and say, this is what we are, this is what we do, and we are at very high risk here in Montana. And I don't think you really intend to hold back on people in this community getting the education they need to be prepared for wildfire. So we're asking that you do what you can to get this moving so we can get our community coordinator back.
And the funding.
And the funding.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
yes, yeah.
all of it.
So I'll probably do that.
Do we need a action on that to support sending that
I
letter of support?
I don't think so. I think what I'll do is I'll draft it and then I'll send it to everybody and see if anybody has any concerns with what I'm saying. And then if nobody has concern, then as co-chair of the council, I'm speaking for the council. Yeah. Well, tomorrow's kind of a busy day. Well,
Does anybody have any other questions, comments, concerns about this specific topic? Lovely.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And hopefully it'll stop being soon.
So if they give
Just
you
hang
a-
in there, Ella. It'll all be okay. Just guaranteed, it'll all work out. It always does.
Thanks.
Oh, Roylene. Hi, Roylene. Okay, yeah, but it's just the timing that I'm concerned about. And for Ella, you know, this is her job, so.
But Dave's website, was down last week. You know,
The what website?
his site was down.
Oh,
So if
Steve
you couldn't
Daines?
send anything electronically and you couldn't call in. And same with,
Gianforte?
Sheehy.
Yeah.
Sheehy's site, all of Sheehy's sites are down.
Oh,
Well,
The-
I read somewhere that Congress normally gets something like 40, I don't know, 400 or something, you know, not, no, 41 an hour, I think was the, of incoming, you know, calls from constituents. And they're getting something like 1,600 an hour at the moment.
Right.
So that may explain why it's a little difficult to run the system.
yeah. So what we're going to do is go ahead and run through our agenda and do what we can with all of these considerations in mind.
Mhm.
So that was funding, team. We have zero funding.
Yeah. On the other horizon of funding, Josh, do you want to chat a little bit about CWDG or?
Yeah, so me and Ella are gonna finish up the final edits on the CWDG grant and just kind of move forward, like nothing's happening. But I'm not sure if this funding is gonna be clawed back or not, but if the funding is still in place, I think we have a really good chance. Ashley's helped with us quite a bit and has worked hard on the grant and made it a really strong candidate. So again, there's around $1 million in there for Fire in the Root between Ella's position being funded for 5 years and then also all the planned activities for Fire in the Root and like a ton of outreach and radio ads and that kind of stuff. And then there's $6 million in on the ground funding for Fuels work. And so we should be finishing that up this week and then it'll be turned in by the end of this month. And then I think we'll find out maybe in June if we get it or not. So yeah, it's been a long process, and a lot of you guys have helped work on this. So fingers crossed.
Yep, and obviously with the new climate around federal funding, it's less dependable than it was
Mhm.
maybe previously. So we're gonna remain hopeful, as that is all we can do. Yes, Christina?
I'm here to
Yeah, I
have
agree.
a question, and I like to work in hypotheticals because, you know, I've had bad things happen.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering if, suppose those grant funds are, it's determined they won't be awarded. And
mhm,
so we don't get the CWDG grant or any of the other grants we're hoping to receive. Do we have some kind of plan B? Do we want to contemplate one? Do we want to set a time where we will do some kind of plan B? Or do we want to wait and see and cross our fingers and hope? I mean, I don't have an opinion. I'm just throwing it out there.
Good question.
I think that, means that the funding team, whoever is, I feel like I'm just usually one who does the reports, we don't necessarily meet, but I think a more formal funding team then needs to be formed, and that needs to be explored in separate meetings of how fire is gonna be funded. If it's not through our DNRC grant, it's not gonna be through CWDG, and especially if we don't have nonprofit status yet, as that is gonna cost money, and we currently don't have any.
So our nonprofit status process is on hold as well, of course.
Yes, because there are filing fees we can't
Right.
even pay.
Okay, just clarifying.
Josh, through RC&D, is that an avenue that Further could
Yep.
apply for other
Yeah.
funding?
Yeah. So if you would have to put in like an application for sponsorship, which means that if you apply for a grant, a federal grant, we manage all the nonprofit status, and we take like a 15.2% off that grant for all the accounting, administration, and everything associated with that. And so yeah, we're doing that with one of my collaboratives right now. And so it's not too difficult to do, but yeah, so it'd be a good first step if, we're waiting on this and we want to apply for grants. So
But you're talking about also federal grants, which would still be on hold.
But there may
Yeah.
be some other grant opportunities as well, because I've been exploring stuff. This is for the Florence Fire District, and I found all kinds of opportunities with the Gary Sinise Foundation. I got some personal protective gear and other safety stuff. The Elks Foundation, or Elks Association. They do an annual deal, the town pump. I mean, there's a lot of other things that are little, they're smaller
Right.
than federal and state grants. But if concurrent to exploring things that we might apply for, we should task the outreach team to prioritize what we would spend it on.
Yeah,
So we can say, well, if we get X, then we do this, this, and this. If we get Y, we can add 2 more things.
Right, and I assume if you apply for any grant, you have to say what the money's for, so the priority list would be necessary.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Mhm.
I mean, and of course, we'd start with the top ones. And so, and I do have experience in writing those grants, and I'm happy to do that like we talked about before.
Right,
But anyway, exploring other options, and there's
Mhm.
actually a service that you can contract with that lines things up, and it's not very expensive. And I can talk to them about exactly how much it would cost for Fire and Rick to do the same thing they did for us with Florence Fire. And Roylene, I'm sure, has a similar experience for Victor Fire.
Look out, Roylene. It sounds like Ken's trying to
Well, I
appoint.
already talked to her.
Okay.
A couple months ago, we were gonna partner on a different one for the fire districts.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
because,
The Greater Ravalli Foundation might be willing to give us some, since the federal grant funding is frozen right now, they might be able to work through the RCND and use the RCND's nonprofit status and allow us to at least continue the education portion of the valley.
You cut out at the very beginning and you said something foundation.
The Greater Ravalli Foundation. The Greater Ravalli Foundation is the Stock Farms Foundation, and they usually concentrate on educational opportunities. But we might be able to make a plea to them.
Yeah, good idea.
well, since up to this point, our funding team has pretty much been Ella and Josh.
Yeah.
Would we like to have some volunteers be in a new funding team to pursue some of these options?
Well, yeah, and I helped review the first version of the CWDG grant. And I think Raylene did too. So I'm not gonna let her escape just because she's only a picture on the screen.
You heard that, Roylene, right?
I heard that. I'll draft a letter for you, Judy, then, and try to get a contact with the Greater Ravalli Foundation. And maybe if we just draft them a letter and tell them we need some financial support right now to sort of help us get over this hump until we figure out what's happening with the federal funding.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
I'll put a
Raylene.
plea out
Need any
there.
help? Need any
I'll
help?
bet.
You
Okay.
know, we are kind of.
We're sort of in a bit of a catch-22 because something like the RAP Foundation is certainly interested in local things, and they don't just do capital things anymore. They gave us some money for air purifiers last year, so they're willing to go beyond sort of their historic range, which has more been capital improvements, not ongoing programs. But they give to nonprofits.
right, we're
So,
not, you have to have a 501c3 for them.
yeah,
That's how we go through the bidder.
We just got one of those, and that's where I think Bitterroot RCND could come and facilitate that if we wanted to go through that RAP foundation as well. The application's pretty simple, and
and the next
So-
round comes, they vary the applications very slightly. They evolve, let's say, and the next ones are available, I believe, February 15th and due March 15th. They do it every quarter. They do it the first 3 quarters of the year. And in the fourth quarter, whatever funds they have left, they sort of hand out to people they like.
Well, Jody Parsons is my neighbor and she's on the board there, I think,
Right.
still. So I'll give her a call tomorrow and give her a heads up. Say, can you put our name in? Maybe?
And I don't know how it would work to go through Josh's structure, but worth a try. I've only dealt with them for people, for groups that already have the 501c3. So that's why I'm a little unsure what you do when you don't have that.
yeah, I could talk to my director this week and kind of get a little more solid foundation on the steps and whatnot. So
That'd be great. So Josh, when you find out some answers, could you keep Roylene and Ken and I up to speed on that? And we'll see if I'm allowed to send Ella emails.
You're definitely allowed to. We just gotta figure out what
Yeah,
how strict they're gonna be.
One of the things, if we're looking for alternate funding, our first step should be our 501.
yes.
And we were going to discuss an attorney tonight,
Yeah, we still will.
but, we need to find out if there's no money to pay I've been recently involved with two organizations that one applied for it and got it, and one decided not to go ahead and do it. But our fee for that was under $1,000. So we're not looking at a big chunk of money to get a 501 going. I don't know what, if you talked to any attorneys or not,
Yeah, we did.
what kind of estimate they gave you for doing it.
It was around that. It was about 1,000 to, it was 1,000 to 2,000,
The problem is we can't spend any.
but the problem is
Yeah.
we don't have any money.
We can't spend any,
You can't spend it on their money.
I see.
What I was getting at is that we can get some money to do this. No.
Are you gonna pass your hat around tonight?
I'm not willing to do that.
and I'm not willing to put something in it.
So, you
Well,
know, the one organization cost us $400 to get the 501(c). The lady that did it was a retired attorney, and she just did it for her husband's part of the group that we were doing it for, or she was doing it for. And the other one was the Sapphire Coalition, and I'm involved with that, and it was because we had high dollar attorneys putting together the lawsuit. They charged us a little more money, it was $1,000. But, you know, that's doable, because our feet are stuck in the mud until we get 501(c).
Right.
Except for what we can work through
Yeah,
Midford RCMD.
yes.
Yeah.
well, there is the option, and it's how we got it for the climate group, is working with someone who had a 501(c)(3 that she was no longer really wanting to run that organization, and you can fairly easily become doing business as with someone if you have someone in that situation. Did that make sense?
Yeah,
That's-
but that makes me nervous.
Well, and
Works
we need to-
fine.
we need to explore what it would actually take and what our options are with Midford RCMD. And then we should
Agreed.
make a decision on moving forward with the attorney and everything, when we have funds available from wherever those funds come from.
Exactly.
Right. So. Josh, did you have something else you were gonna say?
No, just, there's like a lot of end of the year reporting and things like that. And we keep track of the bank account
Jeez.
and so there's a lot more to just, the fee that we have. We do a lot of the bookkeeping and that kind of thing. And so
Exactly. Yeah, when Ella and I talked to this attorney, we felt like for sure we don't want to do it ourselves. This attorney ends up helping people that do it themselves to get out of the messes that they make for themselves, and then it ends up costing them more to get it fixed. So
yeah, I mean,
here's,
yeah, the Bitterroot
Okay.
Land Trust, started with us, before just to get started, and then, then they became their own nonprofit, and so we're just kind of like a stepping stone usually.
right. So maybe instead of talking, well, do you want to do the assessment team, and get it out of the way, and then we'll go on to the
Hmm?
the
We can just
bylaws?
do the bylaws and then go.
Okay, since we're talking about the attorney and everything, I'll just read, I can't remember if we sent this to the whole council in an email. I don't think we did. It was just the bylaws team. This is, in essence, what the attorney said. It would be around $2,000 to fully form the nonprofit, including the $600 IRS filing fee. A $400 annual business entity record maintenance fee is not included in the $2,000. The full, they call it BERM, business entity record fee or maintenance, annual fee would be charged starting in January of 2026. And this attorney, her name is Natalie Black, would serve as our registered agent. So it wouldn't have to be one of us as an individual. When we filed originally and it got rejected, it was Ken and
It was all four of us.
it was three of us.
Oh, three, that's right.
Yeah, we
That's
couldn't, Ella wasn't allowed to
That's
do
right.
that.
You and.
And Mike,
Mike.
and, Natalie said she would serve as a registered agent. They would charge a mid-year sign-up fee of $75 for 2025, which would be added into the $2,000 estimate. So there is more to it. They can't take the name of Fire in the Root Council as the agent. It has to be a person. And it's usually an attorney or a CPA or some business like that, so that they can be, if somebody were to file a lawsuit, they need to know where to go to serve papers for a lawsuit, is what it boils down to. And so attorneys are used to doing that, and they help us, they send us reminders when we need to do things, when we file to the IRS and things like that. So I had sent this to the bylaws team and they all agreed we need to hire her rather than one of us trying to figure all that out, because it's a big liability for a single individual when we don't know what we're doing. So I don't know if you have other questions before we decide as the council that that's what we want to do. I was thinking tonight we could vote yes or no. If we say yes, we're going to do it and it's on hold. But when we get money, we can do it.
Right.
And I can put the attorney on notice. She works for nonprofits, so she knows we're in the same boat as just about everybody else who's a client of hers. So does,
Excuse me, Judy, into the current financial problem, would she be willing to start it with a starter payment and work through it that way, rather than give her a check for $2,000?
I think the majority of the fees are just the individual filings.
Yeah.
So, and she'll want us to pay for the filings. So I think mostly it's just as she continues the process, we just won't have.
pay bills
the
for the
cash to-
individual thing. She was
to
just
pay for
giving
the
us
filing.
an estimate that's altogether eventually going to be about $2,000.
Yeah. So I don't know if we could pay incrementally, like pay per, like filing.
I don't know that that's a very
I don't know.
professional thing to ask her.
Under the circumstances, I think it's a very appropriate thing to do.
I think, and it's, I wonder I wonder if there would be any repercussions to, if we paid for, say, one IRS filing and then didn't have enough money to pay for the next for
We
indefinite
guarantee
period
you
of time.
We're not for nothing. It's just that we'd like to get started, because this could really be a hindrance for other people that, or other agencies that might want to donate to us.
Right. Well, I can call her and ask if any of her other clients that are nonprofits are asking for special consideration, and have they thought about whether they could do something?
And is the
So,
IRS filing at the front end of this?
No.
That's a $600 fee. And is that at the front end or the back end of this process? Because the state department, the Secretary of State is the first part.
Right.
And then the employee identity, EIN is the next part, then the IRS, if I understood that correctly when we were looking at it before.
Yeah, I'm trying to see the order of things.
well, I can only, having gone through the process in the last 5 years, I can only say that you can get the state nonprofit certification, I think for $25, and it's a form that's not that hard to fill out. It probably does need a name from the organization, but I think you can sort of attach it to a position, as I remember. We weren't too fussed by it. It's when you go after the federal certification, which a lot of donors want you to have. There's no question that it gets to be much more challenging. I mean, we
Right.
did the state one, you know, a bunch of, yeah, not very competent. No, I mean, you know, board members just kind of, we did it and it worked. It's when you get,
Laura, since you did that, it would appear, based on the rejection letter that we got, that you have to have one person and it has to be a name, not an ex officio attached to a position.
And it needs a home or a address.
Physical
Right. A
address.
physical, a person and a physical address. And if we did that with the state, then we would have to change that for the 501c3 filing with the IRS.
okay. Yeah,
So
our,
it's,
yeah, our
it's
federal
more-
thing is the doing business as, and we had someone who was willing to let us use her already established 501c3.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't,
You'll take my other one of you.
yeah, I don't know, well, first of all, I don't know that we have one of those. And I don't know whether we would all feel comfortable. Because somebody's got to take the liability associated with that.
I think the one that we have is Biddeford RCD.
Well, yeah, but we're doing that through a structured agreement, right? So,
Well, I am uncomfortable with figuring out who besides an attorney that works with a lot of nonprofits. I mean, I think we need the attorney.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. Yeah.
Consensus on that one.
So in this room, it looks like everybody's nodding yes. Is anybody on Zoom? Kendall, are you there?
Should we just do a raise of hands, yay or nay kind of situation?
Yeah, we
Just so
got
can
no
see it.
nays in the room as I understand it.
Yes, do it.
Was that Kendall?
Yep.
Oh, hey Kendall.
Yes,
And Mike? Okay, and
Yay.
All in favor, raise your hand and say yay.
we have a lot of yays. Yay, like we're having a party.
now can we say, but, okay, we're gonna say yes, but we're not actually going to hire her and sign her on as our attorney until the funding comes.
Or I'm going to call her and ask her if there's another option that she can work with us, but I'm guessing the answer is no. Their business is, this is what we do and this is what it costs.
Yeah. Okay.
So we will do it as soon as we have money, and I will tell her tomorrow that we do want to engage her, but we, as she knows, because she deals with nonprofits, a lot of us don't have any money right now. So,
So,
yes, Zach,
I did have
Zach-
one, can I have one question here? Reading, I mean, I'm just reading what, you know, is on the screen here. Perform the 501c3 formation and handle the annual maintenance and monitoring of our state filing. So they would do both of those for a $400 fee each year. Is that what we're looking at?
no. The maintenance, let's see.
The annual maintenance and monitoring of our state filing for $400 is an annual starting in year 2.
Yes. And that does not include the $600 filing fee with the feds.
Which is an initial filing fee, and that's in year 1.
Right.
Is there also an annual fee associated with the feds? I guess I'm trying to figure out what our ongoing responsibilities are.
From what I remember with our conversation with her, I think she said that she doesn't handle federal filing. Do you Remember that, Judy?
No, I don't think so, because I wrote in my note, in essence, it would be around $2,000 to fully form the nonprofit, including the $600 IRS filing fee. Are you talking about? And then on top of that, there's the $400 annual maintenance fee that's not included in the 2,000.
And that goes to the Montana Secretary of State's office.
Right. Now, there is, I'm just saying, I know that for our 501c3, the climate group, there is an annual paperwork. There are two documents, and don't ask me because I've never actually been involved, but our treasurer or the owner of the actual 501c3 that we are doing business as, which is Jill Davies and Sustainable Living Systems, she individually files that as, you know, or our treasurer has, but now our treasurer is leaving the state, so it's going to go back to Jill. And she seems capable, she's not an attorney, and she seems capable of doing, I think there's two documents that have to be done every year to the feds. That's all I know, which isn't much.
It's your Form 990 has to be done every single year with the feds in order to keep your 501c3 status.
Okay.
So
And is that something a regular human being can do, or who do we?
I do them for the fire department and for the fire association. It's
But
not tough.
It's included in their maintenance fee, that
Okay,
$400.
that's good.
Because it says only state, though.
Yes.
Yeah, but you don't have-
Annual maintenance and monitoring of our state filing. So, okay, that's what the $400 covers, both of those.
Yep.
There's
Okay,
not
got it.
an annual fee for the federal. I don't believe there's an annual fee for the federal, just to the form.
The initial.
Well, $600 for the initial.
Yeah, and then you gotta file your taxes.
Yeah, two forms.
But there's no annual fee for that.
And I think those same two forms have to be attached to your state report.
Right.
Okay, got it.
I think we're covered under the $400 maintenance fee.
Yeah.
So anyway, it sounds like we're all in agreement that we don't want to take any chances and have any individual person in the council responsible. We want this attorney who knows what she's doing. And I will call her and tell her we do want to engage her, but we understand she needs money and we don't have any. So that's just putting her on notice. And I'll also ask her if they're making any kind of concessions for all the nonprofits. Can they get us started? And
Are her clients only nonprofits or is
they
there?
are mostly, but they do other work
See
too,
if she can do a deferred payment until this fall.
right?
That way it would give the council enough time that.
Yeah.
Funding is.
And just so you know, she's in Missoula. And far as we know, there were no attorneys in the valley that work with nonprofits. So I think she's the best choice. And she seemed very competent as we asked questions and talked to her. All right. So at least we have decided we want to pursue that, and that's on the list of things to do if we can manage some money. And I guess we'll let you know if we're gonna pass the hat at some point. Okay, where's my agenda? Getting
Do
lost.
we, I mean, I guess that does bring up something that we need to think about. Do we have a sort of priority list of what funds we might get and how we would allocate them?
What funds we might get?
I think
Well-
that's a funding team kind of purview to sit down and say, what can we pursue? What are federal, state, and private funding opportunities? Rolene agreed to write a letter to initiate something, and we can look at some other ones. But the funding team has to look at what we might get And the outreach team and the bylaws team have to put a prioritization on how we would spend what we might get. And we need to know what we want in order to put in for private funding.
I would almost recommend suspending
No country chiefs.
the bylaws and the outreach team and focus on the funding and with prioritize list of what you need to do. And then once the funding starts coming in or you get your status, then pick up the outreach and the bylaws things. But there's no sense having teams meet on something that potentially may not happen again. So
That makes
If,
sense.
if we're in general agreement that, like, our top priority is the education stuff that Roylene's gonna include in her letter, then if the general membership's in agreement on that, then the outreach team doesn't have to meet to say that's a priority. But if not, then somebody has to say, yeah, our priority is what we're asking for.
We might be doing a lot of things by email,
Sure.
and I would need responses from people. Zach, you had a question a while ago.
I did.
Do you remember it?
This might not be the right form just because being involved, but we came in here later in this process, right? So we didn't know how this got started, where it transitioned to, where we're going, right? Like, was this a DNRC idea that said, hey, we're gonna throw some funds towards these group of citizens, or was this a group together and then kind of said, DNRC, we need help, or where do we see ourselves branching, saying, we're independent and we're here to help DNRC on projects?
My understanding is Kristen Mortensen from the DNRC, who works with 8 different counties, had some groups like this, like fire councils. And she knew that we were at high risk down here and that she saw a need and advertised to the community in, was it 2020 or 2021?
well, I mean, I would even say, I remember like some initial meetings that people from the DNRC and Forest Service were getting together just at the inception of the concept. Maybe as far back as like 2018, 2019.
That's where the first
Oh.
documentation starts, is
Yeah.
2019 on the
And
drive.
then the WUI task force, which started when the last community wildfire protection plan flopped out. We started that through Goodrich RC&D and said, well, we gotta come up with something that's better to base a new community wildfire protection plan. Well, that WUI task force and you and I were both members and Byron was and a whole bunch of others. And that folded into this.
Kind of handed off.
So-
to what became-
So that started in 2015.
I think it might have gone back.
And as soon as it didn't work, we said, well, I guess we need a better WUI map.
Yeah.
And so then we started meeting to come up
And then
with
in
that.
2021, I think is when I heard about, hey, there's this group and we're looking for community members. I think that's when the first big push for
Right,
ordinary people was put out there, and that's when I started coming.
yeah,
So then, we had a bunch of people come and they were all trying to figure out, well, what's this all about? What are our goals and what's our mission? And so it took us a while, but here we are.
I'm gonna have to say, we're going to go out on our own and try to really start making something of this. going.
Well, we still, are hoping. I understand, I got a call from the Forest Service this morning saying, we can't be at your meeting, but this does not mean we are not willing to partner. We intend to continue coming to meetings when we're allowed to and when we have a message, you know.
Think of it this way, that all the agencies need a community partner.
Yeah.
To sign off on things, and it helps with grants and other projects. So that's why the fire group was really established, was to be that community partner and a sounding board to push the WUI and the CWP.
well, yeah,
And it helped when Eric filed for the grant to redo the CWPP. You actually have a group attached to it that was community members, so.
You got a community input side.
Correct.
right. And so the county took the lead on it because of the way it was structured. And then we got a new CWPP last year, well, year before last now.
Yeah.
And
Community Wildfire Protection Plan.
and so it's kind of coalesced. A lot of different pieces have come together to be what it is now. And the agency partners are still interested in partnering, but the Forest Service can't partner with, they can't talk to anyone, right?
Understand.
Anybody outside, and they have to take all their websites down and all kinds of other stuff.
Right. So everybody's regrouping right now, and I am fully anticipating we're all going to continue to be partners, but we're just on a pause right now. Except the council, people who are not federal agencies or state agencies can still meet and talk and decide things.
And the 501(c)(3) is just a mechanism so that we are official and we can accept grant funding.
Right.
Right. And seek grant funding,
Secret, but well,
right? I
Optimistic.
mean, that's the first part of it, seeking it in order to accept.
Right.
and also to protect the members from liability as well.
Right. Right. So does that answer your question?
Is it correct in that context to say that there will be no assessments done until this gets somewhat sorted out?
Well, we can back up right now and talk about assessments. Oh, what? Oh,
We should be funding it by the time snow melts.
Yeah,
I
so
would-
for, on the assessment oh, sorry, Rolene, you're gonna say something?
Well, I was gonna say, there's so much snow on the ground right now that assessments, by the time the snow melts, they should have it sorted out. I can remember when
Yeah.
Clinton did it. When Clinton did it, it was right up till spring that we were all torn apart and offices were a mess, et cetera. And by 1st of May, everything was back to full swing normal again.
And also, with the scope of my new potential job duties, I think assessments fits in as long as it's DNRC assessments, which is how I'm gonna frame it so that I can still do it.
Right.
So right now I kind of frame it as fire and emergency assessments because it all goes through our platform, our assessment form, our tracking form. We all collaborate. So for the spring, while the separation still exists, I'll stay on the assessment grind, but I'll frame it as a DNRC assessment platform rather than firing the route. And then we can just collaborate.
Right.
It'll probably
Well,
be,
and it's DNR, it's a DNRC form, it's a DNRC database, you're a DNRC employee,
Yes.
and if we choose to tag along and learn from you, that would be great.
Yes, and then also if you folks here at Fire in the Root are getting pings on the form, you can of course share that information with me as a DNRC employee if you can't handle the capacity, and I can enter those into our database and complete those. So, we'll get them done, and it'll just be a
Changing the
little.
signs on the door,
Essentially, so it'll be a little wonky and I have to talk to my supervisors and all the higher up DNRC folks to figure out how they want us. Olivia and I and the other folks in the same position to change our job duties. They might decide that we don't need to change at all. So it's just all up in the air. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of all the possibilities as we move forward. But assessments should be covered in this shift that I'm gonna be in.
None of us present
Yeah,
are on federal salaries.
exactly.
And so your DNRC federal partners won't participate in it, but any number of us can help
Mhm.
DNRC implement DNRC assessments
Exactly,
and put it into the DNRC database.
yes.
and can we get an update on,
I'm getting paged again, guys. Bye.
we had some assessment training coming up.
Yes. So that is still on the books. It seems to be covered in our shift. So far, haven't gotten any feedback that that wouldn't be covered since it's first Willow, it's first Southwestern Land Office employees as well as all of our partners. So Olivia Anderson, who is my counterpart in Missoula, and I are still collaborating on that. And we will be doing one in the Missoula area in, I think it's April 18th. And then we'll do one here in Ravalli County. I'm thinking earlier April, but now with all the snowfall, I might push it back. Does anyone have any specific timelines in mind that might be helpful? It's kind of, that's part of what we're gonna chat about on this is when would a full-fledged assessment training, which is the full PowerPoints, the full slide deck, and then actual hands-on assessment training on buildings, and then practice inputting it into SAM, the full shebang, when would that be good to have?
Seems like it's.
You have to wait till there's no snow.
You avoid, May gets jammed up,
Yeah,
June gets way more jammed up. And by May, we're gonna have people that want. So it seems like in that same April 18th
mm-hmm,
to the end of April, that time period would be good.
perfect.
And is this the same training that you're doing for the Realtors Association?
It's gonna be a different training. So it'll be kind of the full-fledged version of what Kristen did in that webinar. With a
I
lot,
didn't get to go.
which was very condensed, very quick, but comprehensive, and will essentially be like a 10 to 3 PM kind of day. So we'll really get into it,
Including the database entry.
including the database entry.
Good.
Definitely gonna prioritize making that a component, since it's something that is it's often a hang up with folks doing assessments independently of someone like me or Olivia, is that database entry. Whether they don't have access or they don't know how to use it, or they just don't want to navigate it because it's a little bit tricky. So we'll do that as a training as well.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Just a quick thought. Should the assessments be maintained by DNRC until Fire Alert has the 501c status and the liability is mitigated?
I don't know.
There's that big L word, liability.
Well, you know that you're gonna do a home assessment. Someone's house is still gonna burn. And then they're gonna come back and they're gonna want someone to pay for it. And I think once you have a 501c, your liability is covered more than, especially if there's a separation. Right now, the NRC does oversee fire and others. There's that, the liability is there. But if the separation is permanent, I wouldn't do anything from the group side until the 501c is established.
Yeah, because it's not an LLC, it's not a C corp, it's nothing. It's just a bunch of people.
Bunch of individuals.
It's just a bunch of people, yeah.
But you're all covered under that liability clause of the 501c.
Right, once that's in place.
Right, because otherwise, I think individual liability comes into play.
Right.
Each one of you could, whoever signed off on the home assessment could be sued individually,
Right.
not the organization.
That's a really good point.
Right.
However, though, that is like in the form and in the process, there is a disclaimer that we hold no liability for the fate of their home, and it's purely an
And from what I've
educational
heard, No
experience.
insurance company has any interest. I mean,
Interest
kind of
or
sad, but they're
access.
not looking at it and saying, oh, we'll lower your rates because.
Right, they don't care.
Disclaimers in the state of Montana.
Okay.
So it looks good on paper, but
What does that mean? No, Oregon does beneficial, like you say, I've done this prep, they'll give you a discount, or a couple companies, what is it? What does that term mean?
the mitigate like right now, like none of the insurance companies recognize fire mitigation as a reduction in. Yeah.
And I think that's only gonna get worse.
Yeah.
Well, I don't wanna take on additional liability, and that's a good point, Jeff. If we do it without the cover, the umbrella of DNRC, we are leaving ourselves open.
Is everybody frozen or just me?
I hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm not hearing Ella or Judy at the moment.
Yeah, Kendall, are you on still?
I am. I just thought they were all just acting silly.
Oh, so it's just us three now on it.
Oh, well, all right. Let's have a party.
Well, Josh, we're going to have to do a bikini car wash to raise money for this nonprofit. It's going to be me and you, buddy. Get ready.
Yeah, Laura's gonna be there too.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, white
That-
hair
it's
in a bikini. You don't want to see it, guys.
It's the
All
three
right.
of us.
What?
We got to raise $2,000.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of trying to sort through I mean, did I understand? Well, while we're talking, I guess, do we need to go somewhere and rejoin or
Yeah, I
what
think we should. I was going to try to, I mean, their feed's still going, but I was going to log out, leave, and then try to rejoin it.
Okay, my question for if somebody gets back in is, how does this affect, maybe I just missed it, the current outreach to the schools program? Is Ella just on hold and it's not going to happen?
Well,
Yeah, no,
it sounds,
we're canceled.
yeah, it sounds like it had to be, it wouldn't be a fire in the root. It would just be whatever she does is going to be through the DNRC for the time being.
Okay,
All right, I'm going to leave and
Leave.
try to log back in.
Bye. Yeah, well, let's all go. I mean, it's nice company, but